Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a really critical look at something that touches on health, science, and cultural identity, skincare and aesthetic treatments, specifically for women of color. We're focusing on debunking some really persistent myths about melanin-rich skin.
Yeah.
We've gathered quite a bit here, dermatological studies, cultural takes,
Yeah.
basically to give you the shortcut to being, truly informed.
And our mission today really is to connect the dots between the hard science and, well, self-care.
Right.
Because for too long, I think, misinformation has kind of steered people away from options that are safe, beneficial, and sometimes, frankly, necessary.
You mean everything from just daily sunscreen to maybe more advanced things?
Exactly. SPF, lasers, injectables, things sometimes perceived as not for us. Skincare for melanin-rich skin isn't just vanity. It's medical. It's cultural. It drives confidence.
Right.
And it really starts with dismantling some core beliefs.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Starting right at the foundation, with those big myths that genuinely stop women from protecting their skin the way they should, like misconceptions about basic protection and aging. The absolute classic first one, that pervasive idea that black skin doesn't need sunscreen.
Oh, it's the most stubborn one, isn't it? And look, it's true that melanin does offer some natural UV protection.
Yeah, people always mention that.
Right, but the sources are clear. That natural defense is only equivalent to about an SPF 13.
The SPF 13. Okay, that number sounds, well, it sounds like something. But why isn't SPF 13 enough? Especially thinking long term.
Because it just falls way short of that broad spectrum SPF 30 minimum that, dermatologists universally recommend every single day.
So what's the actual difference in protection?
Well, SPF 13 blocks maybe 92% of UVB rays. SPF 30 gets you up to 97%. And that 5% gap, that might not sound huge, but that's where chronic inflammation happens. And inflammation is really the engine driving hyperpigmentation and speeding up aging. So you really need that SPF 30 or higher daily to prevent that damage reliably.
And that damage concern links straight into myth number 2, doesn't it? The idea, often said with pride, that dark skin doesn't age. What's the reality underneath?
Well, melanin is amazing stuff. It definitely delays the visible signs, especially those finer lines, deeper wrinkles.
So people often do look younger for longer.
They often do, yes. But the structural realities, damage from the environment, dehydration, and crucially hyperpigmentation, they still accelerate the underlying aging process.
So things are happening even if you don't see wrinkles yet.
Precisely. Deterioration under the surface. And often, hyperpigmentation is the first sign you can see of that accumulated damage.
Okay, let's switch to products then, because there's a ton of confusion there as well. Myth 3. All skincare products work the same for everyone.
Yeah, that's a really risky assumption to make. Melanin-rich skin is just physiologically different in how it reacts sometimes.
How so?
Certain ingredients, maybe harsher ones, can trigger significant irritation or, trauma. And the skin's immediate defense.
Let me guess. Dark spots.
Exactly. What we call post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, or PIH.
Right. So just to be super clear for everyone listening, PIH is when your skin overreacts to something as small as mild irritation or even a pimple and leaves those dark marks that can stick around for months.
Months, sometimes even a year or more. So the product formulation has to account for this. It needs to be ideally anti-inflammatory, soothing.
And tested on diverse skin tones.
Absolutely. Tested specifically to minimize that PIH risk.
Which brings us to myth 4, the idea that natural is always the fix. Natural products are always safer.
Ah, the greenwashing trap. Look, just because it says organic or natural doesn't mean it's gentle or safe for your skin.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Lemon juice. It's natural, right? But it's incredibly acidic and phototoxic.
Phototoxic meaning it makes your skin more sensitive to sun.
Exactly. Put it on your skin and go in the sun, you're almost guaranteeing discoloration. Skincare needs to be evidence-based, pH appropriate. It's about the science, not just the source.
Okay, so we busted those foundational myths. Let's pivot now to the really crucial part of preventive care, the part grounded in medical need. Daily SPF.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is how the whole skin cancer risk conversation shifts for people of color. Sources confirm, yes, people of color get diagnosed less often overall.
But, and this is the scary part, when they are diagnosed, it's frequently at much later stages. which leads to significantly higher mortality rates. The devastating statistic.
Why that delay? Is it just lack of awareness?
It's partly the perception from patients and sometimes practitioners that dark skin is somehow immune, so signs get missed. And the most aggressive type we often see is acral lentiginous melanoma.
Where does that usually show up?
On the palms, soles of the feet, under the nails, places that aren't always checked in a standard skin exam.
So, daily SPF isn't just about preventing sunburn. It helps prevent the UV damage that can trigger those dangerous cell mutations anywhere on the body. It's truly a health decision.
And beyond cancer, which is obviously paramount, daily SPF is also the absolute #1 tool against hyperpigmentation, right?
Yeah.
That's consistently the top aesthetic concern we hear about.
Without a doubt. Think about it. If you're spending money on serums, brighteners, trying to even out your skin tone, but you skip sunscreen, that UV exposure is actively making those dark spots worse every single day.
So sunscreen isn't just protection. It's actually part of the treatment for uneven tone.
It's essential. It has to be part of the active plan.
Right. This brings up the quality issue. Why push for medical grade or professional products? They can be pricey. Can't over-the-counter stuff work?
That's a totally fair point about cost and accessibility, but our sources point to the value being in, well, enhanced efficacy and stability, meaning professional products usually have higher concentrations of active ingredients, stable vitamin C, potent retinoids, peptides formulated to actually penetrate the skin effectively, and, crucially, tested to minimize sensitivity on diverse tones.
So you're saying if I buy a fancy vitamin C serum, the medical grade version is more likely to, A, still be active when I use it, and B, actually get where it needs to go.
That's the idea. Better stability, better delivery. Plus, these routines are often designed to support the skin barrier.
Why is the barrier so important for melanin-rich skin?
Because a weakened barrier makes the skin much more vulnerable to irritation, which leads straight back to
My age. Those dark spots again.
Exactly. So a good routine minimizes those risks, helps keep the skin resilient.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting, I think. Moving beyond daily care to aesthetic treatments, we have got to talk about the fear, the misinformation around things like injectables and lasers.
Yeah.
Treatments often seen as, risky or just not designed for skin with more melanin. Let's start with injectables, Botox, fillers.
Right. So the bottom line from the research is, when done by a skilled, knowledgeable professional, both Botox and fillers like hyaluronic acid are considered very safe for people of color.
What about the big fear keloids? We hear that a lot.
That's the #1 concern, yes. But the evidence just isn't there to suggest an increased risk of keloids from the fine needle used for fillers or Botox in Black patients.
So where does the keloid risk usually come from?
Typically deeper trauma surgeries, piercings, bad cuts. Not the very superficial puncture from an injectable. Now, proper technique, depth, dilution, that's all crucial to avoid bruising or temporary discoloration, but the treatments themselves, safe.
And what about the other myth? That fillers will make you look dun or unnatural or erase your ethnic features?
That comes down to the practitioner's skill and artistry. A good injector, especially one who really understands diverse facial structures, uses these tools for subtle restoration.
Restoration of what?
Restoring lost volume, enhancing balance, compensating for those structural aging changes we'll get to. It's not about erasing identity, it's about refinement.
Okay, now lasers. Historically, that was a genuine danger zone, wasn't it? Burns, pigmentation.
Absolutely. 10, 15 years ago, extreme caution was totally warranted. The game changer has been technology, specifically wavelength.
You mean things like the N.YAG laser?
Exactly. The N.YAG laser, which uses a 1064 nanometer wavelength.
Okay, break that down. What does 1064 nanometers mean for the patient? Why is it safer?
It means the laser light penetrates deeper into the skin, essentially bypassing most of the melanin sitting in the surface layer, the epidermis.
Ah, so it doesn't see the surface pigment as much.
Precisely. Older lasers often targeted all pigment, leading to burns on the surface. The 1064 goes deeper to target hair follicles, stimulate collagen down low, or treat vascular issues, all without causing that kind of catastrophic damage to the skin's surface color.
So the tech is much better, safer. But I assume some protection afterwards is still key.
Oh, non-negotiable. Absolutely essential. No one, especially someone prone to PIH, should even think about laser without a bulletproof plan for sun protection and maybe pigment suppression before and after.
Got it. And the last advanced option to touch on, PDO thread lifts. What are they, and are they safe across the board?
So PDO stands for polydioxinone. These are basically biocompatible sutures, the same kind used in surgery sometimes.
And they lift the skin.
They do two things: provide an immediate mechanical lift when placed strategically, and then over time, as they dissolve, they stimulate your own body to produce more collagen.
And the safety profile for darker skin.
Very high safety profile across all skin tones. Because the lifting comes from that mechanical action and collagen stimulation, it's not relying on light or heat energy, which is where the risks for melanin usually lie.
Seems perfect for that stage where maybe you see some sagging, jawline isn't as sharp, but you're not thinking surgery yet.
Yeah.
Maybe 30s to 60s.
That's the sweet spot, yes. Mild to moderate sagging. It's a great non-surgical option, lasts typically 12 to 24 months, minimal downtime, and virtually zero risk of pigment issues if done correctly.
Okay, connecting all these treatments, the SPF, the lasers, the threads, back to the bigger why. You mentioned structural changes.
Yes. We need to understand that all these interventions, from basic protection to advanced lifts, are essentially compensating for the fact that aging involves a structural collapse, and that happens regardless of skin tone.
Even if, as we said, the surface signs like wrinkles appear later, the underlying structure is still changing. Can you simplify those changes for us?
Yeah, think of it in three main parts. First, bone resorption. Your facial bones literally shrink over time.
Shrink.
Yes, they lose volume, especially around the eyes, the jaw, the cheeks. That loss of the underlying scaffold is a major cause of deep sagging and hollowness.
So when people get filler, it's not just filling a wrinkle, it might be replacing lost bone structure.
In effect, yes, replacing that structural support. Second component, fat pad shifts.
Okay.
Those nice, high, plump fat pads you have when you're young? Gravity and loosening ligaments cause them to droop downwards. That deepened smile lines causes jowls.
The dreaded jowls.
Exactly. And third, just the overall decline in elasticity. Collagen and elastin break down faster after 30, and sun exposure massively accelerates this. The skin loses its snap, gets rougher texture.
Wow. Okay, so putting it all together, what's the takeaway for our listener? All that preventive stuff, antioxidants, retinoids, and especially that daily SPF.
It's all directly supporting your skin's existing architecture, slowing down those fundamental changes. You're literally investing in your long-term facial structure, not just putting on moisturizer.
Okay, before we wrap this deep dive, we have to touch on maybe the most subtle barrier. That cultural feeling sometimes that these procedures, these aesthetic treatments, are somehow not for us, or they clash with being authentic.
That's such an important point, and it brings up the question, can choosing enhancement actually be empowering?
What do the sources suggest?
They suggest reframing it. Think about the history Black communities have often been excluded from or harmed by medical and aesthetic advances. So choosing safe, evidence-based treatments now, that can be seen as reclaiming control, asserting agency over your appearance and health.
Shifting it from feeling like conformity to feeling like confidence.
Exactly. And the most practical step you can take, find the right practitioner.
Someone who gets it. Not just technically skilled, but culturally competent.
Yes. Someone who understands melanin-rich skin intimately, who anticipates PIH risk, who discusses options relevant to your features and concerns. Seeking out dermatologists or aesthetic nurses, perhaps even those of color, who have deep experience with diverse skin tones. That's your best defense against bad outcomes.
Right. So, to sum up this whole deep dive, skincare for women of color really needs to move past those old myths. It has to be protective, preventative, and deeply personalized.
A blend of solid education, medical empathy, and, balanced self-care. It's about aging vibrantly, authentically on your own terms.
The knowledge is out there now. The technology is safer.
Absolutely. By tackling the misinformation, you empower yourself to make truly informed decisions, whether it's just picking the right SPF or considering something more advanced like an NDay.YAG laser.
Okay. And as always, we leave you with a final thought to chew on. Given everything we discussed, especially the sobering statistics about delayed skin cancer diagnosis, like ecral lentiginous melanoma in communities of color. How does embracing daily SPF shift from just being a personal beauty choice to becoming a potentially life-saving, vital public health action for the entire community?
Something to think about.
Definitely. We'll leave you with that. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.